What is up, Main Street Fire Rescue? It's Matt, and this is going to be a vlog from home. It's kind of a short one, but I wanted to get this out there. So without any further wasting of time, let's get this vlog in service. Welcome to Main Street Fire Rescue. Welcome to the channel. We're now in service. So, unless you've been living under a rock lately, you may have noticed the articles, the endless articles that have been out there about the people that were stranded on the Norwegian Cruise Line. Okay, well, they weren't stranded on, they were stranded on an island somewhere around the south tip of Africa. Just the tip. And it turns out, like everything else, you know, we've unfortunately only heard the stories of the people stranded, not the full story, which Norwegian put out today. All right. I'm sorry, it didn't come out no, it did. It came out about an hour ago. So, to recap, there was about 8 people that were on an excursion, not sponsored by Norwegian, decided to take an excursion and got back late. That's all we heard. The ship left, or they got back from the excursion, ship left without them. Wouldn't let them on board. That's all we had. And then it was Norwegian's fault, and this, that, and the other, and how could they be so crass, and this is no way to treat your customers, and on and on and on. And then on top of that, there's a woman that got booted off the boat because she had a bunch of illnesses going on, but I'll save that for the end. So this whole thing, they always warn people, I've never cruised before, but the one thing I always hear about is if you're going to cruise, make sure that your excursion is sponsored by the ship, because if there's any delays, they will usually work with you because it's a ship-sponsored excursion. This was not. This is like everybody else right now, and even the people at Disney. Oh, gotta save money, because basically, I'm just gonna say it, people are traveling right now with money they don't have. That's just what, there's no other explanation behind this insane surge in vacations and leisure going on right now. I mean, vacations and traveling and all that are being, what they say the other day, vacations and leisure expenses are higher than they've ever been at any other point in time in history, which is nuts right now. It's given the economy, like I've got a vlog on that I'm getting ready to upload, another topic. But the story is, and it goes like this. This is from the New York Post, which is, again, take some of this with a grain of salt, but it's on multiple sites. This is just the first one I grabbed. It said the 6 Americans and 2 Australian passengers who were stranded on an African island when a Norwegian cruise line ship sailed off without them have returned to the vessel to continue their African voyage. As the cruise line revealed that the group caused their travel headaches over the past few days by missing their departure time by over an hour. Okay, that was left out initially. Made it sound like they were 2 minutes after the boarding time and they wouldn't let them on. This is over an hour. And this is, I'm trying to read this correctly because this is not written very well, but it is the way I'm interpreting it is this is Norwegian saying this, is that these people caused their own headaches by being late, which they did. It says the 8 passengers reboarded the ship, making a 20-day journey across Africa on Tuesday morning in Dakar, Senegal. A spokesperson for Norwegian confirmed to the Post. So it continues. Jill and Jay Campbell of South Carolina, along with 4 other Americans and 2 Australians, had to race through 7 different countries in 48 hours to reboard the Norwegian Dawn in Senegal on Tuesday. So it had been 2 days ago. They had earlier hoped to board the ship at the port in Gambia, West Africa, traveling 15 hours through 6 countries to reach the port on Sunday, only to find out the ship could not dock due to low tides. I could see that. From there, the group boarded a bus and had to take a ferry across the river. Kurt Geese, the son-in-law of another passenger, was left on the island of Sao Tome and Principe after she suffered a stroke, told the Post. Spokesperson for Norwegian Cruise Line says the passengers will be reimbursed for the costs they endured while trying to race from Gambia to Senegal, but not the other ones since they were left behind because they didn't get back in time. Apparently they tell you this over and over and over again. Despite the series of unfortunate events outside of our control, we will be reimbursing these 8 guests for their travel costs from Banjul, Gambia to Dakar, Senegal, the cruise line said. It had earlier said the passengers who were left on the island without any of their belongings from the cabin, including money, medicine, and necessary travel documents, were responsible for any necessary travel arrangements to rejoin the ship. As they should be, man. They tell you this stuff. Like, are we that entitled of a society now that we just don't follow rules anymore? You just show up whenever you want. The ship will wait. They're only running 3 hours behind. They'll wait. You know why that ship needs to stay? Because we're Jill and Jay Campbell from South Carolina, by God. That ship better not move a fucking inch before we set our asses on board. Like, what are we becoming, man? What the hell? Let's go on further here. Also this is my other bitch about this whole thing. These people complaining. So you leave the ship, okay, to go on an excursion on some island, on some continent that you know nothing about. You don't take any money with you. You don't take any of your documents with you. And for these people that claim they needed their so-called medicine, you left that behind too. Good job, people. What is wrong with you? If I needed to take a medication multiple times a day, you can be sure that son of a bitch would be at my hip, within reach, at any point in time. But no, let's leave it in the room. Even though we're going on some unknown excursion by a company that's not part of Norwegian. And yeah, like, it's totally on these people. They warn you not to do this. And they did it. They did it anyway. Got to save some money. Like I said, if you're trying to save money, you don't belong on this stuff. It's just, I know it sounds horrible, but this cost-cutting shit is insane. Like, these people going to Disney, buying $500 gift cards for 5% off so they can save $10 or whatever it is. You know, okay, so you spend $5,000 and you $409.75 or some stupid number, like, or that's $200 extra I can spend. Okay, you're gonna make it up in taxes later, you numbnuts. Let's see. As they scrambled to find a way back to the ship, working with the U.S. Embassy in Angola, the Campbells had to shell out more than $5,000 in food, toiletries, and hotels, as they were the only ones in the group that had a Visa credit card on their persons. Just what I was talking about. Nobody else thought to bring any money with them. The group finally reboarded their Norwegian Dawn Tuesday morning, but hadn't spoken directly to cruise officials. It's basically, I was looking for the other part of this. So here's another article. So this is kind of in the middle of it, but this is picking up where the other one seemed to have left off. It says, on Wednesday, the group of 8 tourists was late to return to the ship by more than an hour for the all-aboard time of 3 p.m. from a private excursion on the island, which was not organized by the cruise line. Jay and Jill Campbell of South Carolina were part of the group that was left behind. They said that their tours operator notified the cruise captain that they were going to be late to rejoin the ship, and that the local Coast Guard tried to get them on the vessel, but they weren't allowed to board. There's rules to be followed, people. If they say 3 p.m., your ass is there at 3 p.m. Like they told us in the fire department, day one, if you're on time, you're late. As a result, the couple and the rest of the group had been stranded on the island off of Nigeria, grappling with language, currency issues, and complicated travel to catch up with the ship. The lovely people of Sao Tome were very gracious, very hospitable, and they had reached out to us as much as they could to help us find hotels, Jay Campbell said on NBC Today, Tuesday morning. It's a Norwegian spokesperson called the incident a very unfortunate situation, but it said guests are responsible for ensuring they return to the ship at the published time. Cruise line said that after the guests failed to return, their passports were delivered to local port agents, that's how it works, in line with protocol. The company said it was working with local authorities to understand the requirements and visas needed for the guests to reboard the ship at the next available port of call. Basically, then it talks about how they weren't able to get on board at the next dock because of the safety conditions. And the Campbell couple said they traveled through 7 countries in 48 hours to arrive in Senegal on Monday night. But they were considering whether they even wanted to return to the cruise. It says, we are considering whether or not we are going to board the ship. It's docked here in Senegal, she said. We believe there was a basic duty of care that they had forgotten about. So it does concern us. No, that's your fault. That's a you problem. They told you to be back there at 3 o'clock. They make tons and tons of announcements. I've watched the vlogs. I've watched a lot of cruising vlogs. You hear the announcements in the back. You know, when they tell you, make sure you're here at this time. Make sure you're back at the ship by this time. It says, after what we witnessed, we truly believe that although there's a set of rules or policy that the ship may have followed, they followed those rules too rigidly. Yeah, you know what? Because we're Jill and Jay Campbell, by God. That boat better stay its ass behind and wait for us. Even if we're 8 hours late, that ship better not leave that fucking dock. Otherwise, by God, they're going to hear from me. Because we're Jill and Jay Campbell from South Carolina. The entitlement of people. What the hell? They followed it too rigidly. Yeah, no problem. They just have a set of rules. They're just there. This is the crap that I'm talking about. That since the scamdemic happened, this is the bullshit that we've been dealing with. Everybody's entitled now. You can break the rules. You can not follow shit, not follow directions, do whatever. And it's the company's fault, not your own fault. That's the shit that's got to change. And this is where I mentioned in another vlog I'm working on uploading, as much as I don't want to see it, we really, really, really need an economic catastrophe to bring everything back in line, to get people back down a notch, because everybody is just out of flipping control right now. People have to realize that you are not all that. You know, okay, so you spent a lot of money. So did everybody else. You know, or, you know, yeah, you're the only sucker on the ship that spent money. Everybody else got on for free. You know, you know, they followed their rules too rigidly. Nice. It says they ultimately rejoined the cruise. Passengers were responsible. They did reimburse them for their unfortunate events when the ship couldn't dock. And then it goes on to the next one. The silver lining of this catastrophe was that the Campbells were able to connect with another Norwegian Dawn passenger, Julia Lenov, 80 years old, who was left behind on the island but for a medical reason. Lenov was on a different day tour Wednesday. She had medically been disembarked from the cruise to seek local treatment on that day, Norwegian said. Norwegian said that its care team tried to call Lenov several times and was unable to reach her, and that it worked with its port agent in Sao Tome, hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Principe for updates on her health. The Campbells met Lenov and were able to put her in contact with her family in California, who flew her home. A move Lenkov's daughter said saved her life. She's a world traveler. She travels all the time. So this is going to be one of her bucket list trips, because she's been to 120 countries so far, and she wanted to get to 130. Her daughter Lana Lenov said. Oh, Lana Lenov Geese. Oh, there, that tells you all you need to know right there. She's got 18 last names. Said in an interview that aired on Tuesday on the Today Show. Norwegian said Lenov was escorted on a flight to Lisbon, Portugal, and then put in the care of airport staff members to continue her journey back to the U.S., where she has safely returned. They did have a picture of this woman, and I'm going to tell you something. It's always hard to say, you know, what picture, you know, because in one picture they use of her, she looks like she's 30 years old, and the other picture, she looks like she's well into her 80s. I mean, she has bruising all along her arms. She's got these bandages with the yellow gauze wrapping, which would indicate a person that's been on blood thinners a long time. Their skin thins out really, really bad, and it tears super easy. Definitely doesn't look like somebody that should be on a cruise ship by herself. You know, and it's funny how it's Norwegian's problem. You know, I'm going to tell you something. I got a friend of mine that works on the Viking River cruises. And if you have a medical emergency on that boat, if they can't do much about it, your ass is off that boat. And I don't mean that to be crass. That's just the reality of it. They're not going to keep you on that boat. As long as you're healthy and spending money and are upright, you can stay on that boat as long as you want. But the minute something goes south and it's beyond a cold, flu, you know, basic stuff they can just basically treat, you're a liability at that point. You got to go. And they will drop you off at wherever they are at. No questions asked. And you know, then the family's mad at Norwegian. And you know what? Norwegian, it's not their responsibility. If this is anything like the patients we see that go to Walt Disney World that should not be going, I don't mean they shouldn't go ever. I'm just saying they shouldn't be going in their current state, meaning they left home either very sick, or they needed surgery and decided to delay it till after they get back from the trip, or B, they ignored doctor's orders and had some kind of medical procedure and decided, you know what, if I'm going to be off work for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to spend it at Disney World. And they wind up in the emergency room and then sometimes the ICU, which is not good. So your whole vacation is spent in the hospital. So my guess is, just by looking at this woman, that she has a load of medical issues, and yet she was put on a 20-some day cruise all by herself with no family members present. And then the family's mad because Norwegian didn't bother to try to track them down. That's not Norwegian's responsibility. That's the responsibility of the person that's having the problems. You know, Norwegian can try, but it's very limited what they can do because of HIPAA. You can't just go calling people and say, hey, so-and-so's, you know, it is things they have to follow. I mean, the sad part is if they would have called or something, they said, they violated her HIPAA rights. They would have gone the other way. But why is a woman with that kind of medical problems going all by herself on a 20-plus day cruise around the southern tip of Africa? I mean, what are people thinking? Oh, and by the way, has had, in the history it says has had prior heart. In one article they claim she had a heart attack and a stroke. I doubt that. I really doubt that, because very rare, you know, because it says that she was treated and released. That's probably not going to happen. And then it says that she possibly suffered a stroke. Well, again, if you are that medically, and I know things can happen out of nowhere, I get that. But with just the way she looks, if you are that feeble, why in the world are you on a cruise like that? You know, and I keep saying it, where do these people get this money? Like, this could not have been a cheap cruise. You know, it's just like the theme parks. Everything's busting at the seams. Cruise ships are sold out for the rest of the year. And they're charging astronomical amounts. You know, nothing makes sense these days. But anyway, people, if you're going to cruise, be on time. Remember, if you're on time, you're late. Always remember that. If you keep that in your head, you'll never be late. So, and please be smart. I'm working on a vlog like this, but it's going to discuss some of this. If you have medical issues and you got things you need to take care of, please take care of them and make sure you are in good health, especially if you're going to embark on a cruise. Because I promise you, they will offload your ass somewhere where you don't want to be. And then a lot of times, they might not even accept insurance. Sometimes it's all cash. You don't got the cash, you stay here, you're not leaving. I mean, it could get real scary really fast. So don't play around with that stuff. I see it over and over again. I see it in the ER. People come here, they want to go to the parks for a little bit, and then they go off to Port Canaveral on a cruise. And some of them are, you know, oh, we got a cruise in 2 days. I got to come to the ER to make sure I'm perfectly healthy, even though if I've ignored my doctor's orders to have this test, that test, and the other test done. But I want to make sure the ER says I'm fine, which the ER is like, no, I'm not going to tell you that. That's up between you and your doctor. But these people do it all the time. They go and, you know, they're sick as hell. They get on these boats, and then they still get sick on the boat, and then they get offloaded somewhere, and then they're bitching at the cruise line. Well, they kicked me off the boat. Yeah, that's because that's their job. I mean, you're not their liability. That's you. You are responsible for you, nobody else. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there. Hope you all like that. But it is real. It is true. I saw that, and I'm like, I knew it. The first few days of this, it was all about the people and how Norwegian was in the wrong. And then when you hear the story from the other side, yeah, it's not all Norwegian. That was mostly on those people. They did something they weren't supposed to do, and they tried to blame somebody else for it, which, hey, that's how shit works in America now. We just blame others for our problem. We're the one that screws up, and it's everybody else's fault. That's where we're at now. So anyway, what do you think about it? Leave a comment in the comments below. I'd like to know your opinions on this. Was the cruise line wrong for leaving them? Even though they were an hour late and they took an excursion, they told them not to because it wasn't sponsored by the boat. Because see, apparently if you take an excursion sponsored by the boat that has the boat's name attached to it or the company's name, they're going to know that you're missing. And they're going to say, hey, we're running late, and they'll hold the boat up for you. These unknowns, yeah, you're on your own with that one. You're on your own. So y'all have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll see y'all again soon. Main Street Fire Rescue out of service. See ya.